All right, so we're here, and I dropped my mic. Wonderful
Mic
stuff.
drop already.
The mic drop already, and we haven't even started fishing. I think there might be a mic drop.
There may be.
I don't know if it'll be from us, but it'll be from somebody.
Look. So here we are. Like, we're getting ready for a big tournament here on Lake Conroe.
Our biggest of the year, because
Yeah.
we don't fish that many tournaments.
No, BBT, Big Bass Tour.
Yeah.
So, some people are a little shady. Not gonna mention anybody.
What did I do?
I'm just talking about the glasses. But
Well, I mean,
BBT.
you gotta understand, before we get into this, you're gonna make fun of my glasses, and I've had comments about the glasses on the YouTube channel, like, why are you wearing your glasses indoors? And I'm like, you don't understand. These are especially made for King of Hearts fishing. They have 4K LCD LED technology built in that I can see fish from a mile away with these glasses, even indoors.
Seeing fish and catching fish is two different things.
Oh, that might be the case. So anyway, they're you know, they've got to be part of the show, because that's just the
That's
way
where
I
you
do it.
started.
That's just the way I
Yeah.
started.
Rachel pointed that out earlier.
Yeah, she did, and that Rachel's his wife, by the way.
Yeah.
She was like, "Is it dark inside, or is it sunny inside your house?" And I
So
said,
look,
"No."
hold up. Let's back up to begin. So people know, obviously, those of y'all that are tuning in to the King of Hearts channel, right?
Which isn't that many, but we're getting there.
Y'all know who Trent is, but myself, my name's Kraig Irwin, and Trent and I became friends about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and we do a podcast for Texas high school football together. We broadcast Texas high school football, so there's a lot. There's a backstory behind all this, and maybe that's for another show here on the King of Hearts.
Yeah,
But-
we'll get into that on another show for sure.
But we're fishing the BBT, our second year to do that together.
Yep.
I have done it. I've fished this tournament for the last 5 years. I met my wife. We kind of started dating 6 years ago here at the BBT, and
So there's deeper history for you
for me,
with the
yes,
BBT.
yes, there is. And so we kind of got that started. Speaking of the wife, she's calling now.
Of
She didn't
course.
get the memo. So we, Rachel and I had started talking, and then kind of met up at Papa's on the Lake here on Lake Conroe.
Which we just came from.
Yeah, and got to visiting. And anyway, the rest is history. And so I've been fishing it for 5 years. We've been coming to this event for 6. And Trent's been here for the last 2. Behind Rachel and I meeting, my oldest son, who is now 22, has fished with me. And then I fished a year by myself. And last 2 years, Trent and I's been here. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, and this tournament is, the format is. We'll get to the rules and stuff here in a little bit, but Kraig, you pre-fish, or at least tried to pre-fish for a little bit today.
Yeah.
And Lake Conroe last year we had a front blow in, which is normally the case for this
Yes.
tournament every
Yes.
year, but a front blew in on us last year on that day before. Last year it was a 4-day tournament. They cut
Right.
it down to 3 days.
Last year we fished it on pre-fished on a Wednesday. You and I did.
Yeah.
And then the front blew in Wednesday night, Thursday.
Right.
And we had some very strong, 20 to 25 mile an hour north winds coming down the pipe here on Lake Conroe. And if you know anything about Lake Conroe, it's a bulkheaded lake, and it gets very, very rough.
Well, and we had 3-foot rollers
Yes.
that Wednesday. I mean, it was super
It
rough.
was rough.
And then it turned off cold, right?
Very.
And which made the fishing extremely tough. I mean, I think we only had a handful of fish each day, and they were all fairly small.
Yep.
And
We felt like the guys on MLF this 2 weeks ago here on Lake Conroe catching a bunch of pound-and-a-half, 2-pounders.
yeah, and we were able to weigh in one fish on the
Yep.
last day. You caught one under some steps off of a bulkhead, but it unfortunately didn't hold up. I think it was 3.5.
3.5.
And
Yep.
it didn't end up holding up. And I say that because even last year it was tough to get into the money. And so let's talk about the format for a little bit. Every single hour they pay off, what is it, the top
10
top 10, and that's what I thought
pays
it was.
1,000 down to 250.
Right.
Is what it pays on the top 10 spots, broke out that way. And it does that from the 8 o'clock hour to the 3 o'clock hour, up to 3 p.m.
Right.
So we got to be off the water by 4 at
Yep.
the end of the day. So that's first and foremost the most important aspect of it to think about as you're going into this tournament. And you got to be strategic, right? As you're coming in to weigh fish and the size of the fish as you're watching the live leaderboard
Yeah.
throughout the day, you have to be very strategic. Early hours get bigger fish. Later hours get bigger fish. It's that midday time slot
Right.
that you're really looking for if you have that 5.5, 6 pounder to go weigh in.
Right, and you might have that, and that's what it's going to take to get a check is 5+ pounds.
Right.
I think. I mean, you might squeak in there. Last year we saw some 4.5s, in between 4.5, 5, get a check in that midday like you talked about.
And my
I think there was even
process,
some 3.5s or whatever.
my thought process with this tournament, because it's not your traditional 5 fish bag limit.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You're looking for one bite to win this tournament. And the winner of this tournament wins a Z18 Nitro bass boat. Good looking boat sitting there at Papa's on the lake right now. But the winner gets that boat. Plus, obviously, you're going to win that hour.
Yep.
So you're going to get that 1,000. Plus, you're going to win, a $40,000 boat, $45,000 boat.
I think
rigged
it's
out, ready to
actually.
go.
I think I looked into it. They have it on their website. It's up to 56 now. Inflation.
Yeah, inflation. Joe Biden helped them out with that. So the big deal is you're looking for one bite. You're not trying to catch 5 fish. You're looking for one bite. I went into this with the mindset of if I don't have a 4-pounder or bigger, I'm not wasting the fuel to run in and weigh in, because 9 times out of 10 you're not going to get a check.
Right, and I mean, last year was kind of a little different. You caught that 3.5 pounder, and
it was late on Sunday.
And it was late, but given the weights that we were seeing over the progression of the weekend, it was like, that might hold up and grab a check. Unfortunately, it didn't. But this weekend's completely different, right?
Yes, weather's totally different.
Yeah, the weather's completely different. It was a little windy today. But let's before we get into like the lake conditions and stuff,
go ahead.
Let's just talk about the BBT in general and where they're at and why they come here every single year and so forth.
So the BBT, in my opinion, is taking place of the KILT here in Houston radio station.
I remember
that. Big Bass Tournament. They had that for a number of years, and that went to the wayside. BBT has come in, and I think Keith and the guy who owns or owned the other Big Bass Tournament, Big Bass Splash.
Mm-hmm.
They were partners, and then they split, and you got the Big Bass Splash and the BBT, Big Bass Tour. So they've both kind of taken on their own lakes to host these tournaments on. So that's what it is, and Rayburn will be coming up here.
Yeah, that Big Bass Splash in early April, I believe.
Early April, early mid-April. It'll be on Sand Rayburn. And then behind that, you have the Big McDonald's tournament on Rayburn as well. But the Big Bass Splash, it's all over Texas. And Bob Seeley, he passed away this last year. So, condolences to his family. But with where we're at, BBT, with what they've been doing, Conroe, they started out this year, the 2025 season, on Harris Chain of Lakes, where
MLF just was.
Yeah, MLF just got off, MLF just got off of Conroe a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, they did.
So Lake Conroe this weekend, then Clark's Hill Lake in Georgia, March 14th through the 16th, and then Table Rock Lake in Missouri, April 4th through the 6th. Smith Mountain Lake, Virginia. My buddy Doug that works for BBT, he was telling me that's his favorite place to go is Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia, April 11th through the 13th. He said it's just absolutely beautiful up there. He said the landscape is where it's at. Then they travel down to Lake Murray in South Carolina, the end of April. April's going to be busy,
lake.
25th through the 27th. Then Chickamauga Lake, Tennessee.
It's on the bucket list of lakes.
It is.
I may have another whole nother. We did bucket list stadiums on our Texas high school football podcast.
Most definitely.
Now we got to do bucket list lakes where we want to fish at. Chickamauga's on
Well,
mine.
I got one of mine already checked off.
Yeah, Okeechobee.
Okeechobee. I got to fish
the
there.
Elite Series is at this week.
Right.
Yeah.
So Scott Martin is not fishing.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So,
unfortunate.
Pickwick, they're in Alabama, May 30th through June 1st.
And they just had a tournament off of Pickwick too, the high school tournament.
Yeah.
Or no, it wasn't a high school tournament. I believe it was a Toyota Series.
So
on Pickwick.
Upper Mississippi River in Wisconsin. That'll be interesting. Douglas Lake in Tennessee, then Guntersville in Alabama, and then Lake Murray in South Carolina. So wrapping up the year in October.
Guntersville's another one.
Yeah,
that's on probably the bucket list. But we'll get into that to another time. And we talked about a little bit about the format, and it's every hour and the payouts, and you got to be how strategic you have to be. It was strange last year for us because not only because of the weather and how things went, but it was our first tournament together.
Yes.
And we didn't know how each other fished at the time.
No.
And what each other's strengths and weaknesses were. So we're not only figuring each other out, but we're trying to figure out the lake at the same time.
Yeah, it was like two toddlers, going into daycare together.
Yeah.
It really was on the boat, but we made it work.
Yeah.
And there was little things like you were standing behind me as I was running the trolling motor and going up through the lake fishing where we were. And I was like, you just keep fishing. I'll pay attention. I can cast under. And that way we didn't get hung up. And nobody ended up with hooks in them. No,
there wasn't none of
no
that
piercings.
Crap. No.
So
we didn't have to pull anything out with braid or anything like that.
So that was a good thing. We had a lot of fun last year.
Yeah, it was fun.
And we learned a lot. And Trent, he realized that 5 days of fishing was... It's a lot. It's a toll. It takes a toll on your body.
Well, especially last week, getting back from Mexico and going through that grueling task, and you should see the bruise on my rib cage right here. But it's a good bruise.
Yeah.
Right. But
we'll just call that spring training.
Yeah, and then that's kind of how I approached last week was kind of training going into this tournament, because I was trying to take it more seriously. I mean, in those that have watched the first episode of King of Hearts Fishing, I was telling everybody that, I didn't really get back into freshwater bass fishing until last year when, and I was really good, or not say good, I'm never really good at it, but I fished in high school and a little bit after I graduated up there in Central Texas, and freshwater was all I knew. But going and having a family and things like that, I didn't have the time to go and fish. And last year,
you got put to the back burner.
And it did. And then last year I was able to get back into it, bought a boat, and now here we are in the second tournament here at Conroe together. And the way I was approaching it was from last week is just preparation for this tournament, because I wanted to take it more seriously.
Right.
I wanted us to at least to try and finish in the money at least 1 hour.
So let's talk about this tournament this year, right? And I was able to go run some water this morning, today, and water temperatures on the east side of the lake was warmer than what it was on the west side of the lake. And one of the things I found, probably 3 to 5 degrees warmer. And when you was able to get in from work and got on the boat with me, we stayed on the east side of the lake where the warmer water was, hit kind of some new areas that I haven't been to in 4 or 5 years, and it's totally changed.
A lot of development going on, and
yes,
they're dredging out places and putting up new bulkheads and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, water was very murky,
yes.
And so we didn't have any success, but a lot of bait fish in that area. So in the water that I was able to cover today, like I say, on the west side of the lake, and that's where a lot of my points is on the west side of the lake, is the water temperatures were cooler. Now, the clouds blew out late this afternoon.
Right.
Sun was able to come out. The wind died down today. We ought to have very favorable fishing conditions, and so it leaves you with the challenge of what direction do you go? Do you go where we went last year and we caught some 2 and 3 pounders, you know, or do we bite the bullet and go hit some uncharted waters?
Well, and last year we spent a lot of our time in Caney Creek.
Yep.
And those that watched the BBT MLF event here at Conroe a few weeks ago, they heard all about Caney Creek.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of grass in there.
Yep.
And the where we fished last year, there was a lot of grass.
Right.
And we were able to catch a few fish in there, but we camped on it, and there were a lot of smaller fish in there, right?
Yep.
And you touched on water temperature and the weather swings that we've had here. Yeah, there's some males moving up.
Yep.
But those females haven't yet. We're still in pre-spawn.
Now, and that was on the west side of the lake today, right?
Right.
Water temperatures below 58 degrees,
Yep.
which is a big point, right? And you hear the true gurus, they talk about 58
to 62.
to 62
so, yeah.
is ideal water temperature for
And
the
holding
spawn.
at
Yeah,
that.
and on the west side of the lake where we fished last year, spent a lot of time last year, it was cooler than that today. But it's going to be interesting as this tournament progresses on with the sun coming out tomorrow. It's going to warm those waters up. It's going to get the surface temperature up warmer.
Yeah, it will.
Is it going to be enough to warm up that deeper water to push them fish up? And that's what you got to think about.
And it could. I mean, you might see some of those females that are staging out, in a little bit deeper water, move in a little bit as the day warms up over these next couple of days. We're going to be facing with some wind on Sunday, but man, Friday and Saturday looks awesome.
Yep.
The wind is relatively low, just a light breeze. The sun's going to be out and shining. It's going to be very, very good tournament. And I was telling you this earlier. It's going to take a double-digit bass to win this thing.
No, and I feel that way. 2 years ago when I fished this tournament, a 14.26 won it. Last year it was 9.8.
9.8, yeah.
I believe was what won it, but the weather conditions were not favorable. 2 years ago, that 14 pounder, it was caught in the first hour of the first morning, and we'll see what happens. But we spent a lot of time this afternoon looking at the maps.
Yeah, we did. A lot more preparation going into this one.
Yeah, so I think we've made a decision on how we're going to go this week or tomorrow.
Or at least tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Starting off.
And I think tomorrow night we'll do another video, kind of a part 2 of how this went, and be able to recap our day. But we've made I think we've made a decision, and until we fire up that Z18 Nitro in the morning, and head out, I think we're going to go way north this year, and to start this tournament. And it's a sacrifice. It's water Trent or I neither have fished, but through the last several weeks of talking to people and everything else, that we feel like that may be the spot to go. And then you being the techie guy that you are and having all the different apps that you have, we look at fresh water flow.
Yes.
And that's kind of the big decision maker, the deciding factor for us.
That was the deciding factor. I mean, I was kind of picking apart the map earlier today, and then as we went to Papa's, I was just kind of looking at how that watershed coming into Conroe way up north up there had a little bit more flow than everything else did, because we haven't had no rain in about a week, right?
Since last Sunday.
So things have kind of calmed down. The lake is up a little bit.
About 2.5 foot.
Yeah, but there's still some water flow up north, and sometimes, especially in pre-spawn, you might be able to catch some staging fish right there, just suspended in that water flow, and just kind of just chilling and feeding on shad coming in and out of that water flow.
Most definitely. In the other aspect of that, with MLF being here just a couple weeks ago,
exactly.
The pressure that those fish have received
Big
down
time
south, with the amount of anglers that were on the water, and there's going to be a large amount of anglers,
400 boats at least,
these next 2, 3, 4 days. There's going to be a large amount of anglers, but I feel like that going up north, right up there, those fish are going to be less pressured, and probably a little bit more eager to bite. I'm hoping we can pull something out. Now, you're talking about talking about planning in time frames of the day, you know, this is one of them deals where we're going to leave out bright and early in the morning. First cast is at 6:30 in the morning when you can have lines in. So if we're wanting to get up there at 6:30 in the morning, we're going to have to leave between
at least by 6.
5:45, 6 to be able to get up there to have lines in the water early in the morning,
Well, I mean,
catch them on that feeding stage.
Yeah, it's going to be dark. We don't know if it's going to be foggy in the morning. The last couple of mornings it has been foggy, so it might take a little bit longer to get up there. But we're willing to take that gamble and run that far north just because, I mean, we feel like you said, not near as pressured. MLF and the weeks following that MLF tournament, Caney Creek and those places down south are just north of the bridge.
Right.
Have just been hammered,
absolutely,
and absolutely killed over the last few weeks. So, and we expect that trend to continue with. I mean, like I said, 400 boats,
a minimum 400.
Yeah, going to be around tomorrow, and safety is another factor.
Right.
Right. We had a couple of foggy days last year where, you know, we had to keep our head on a swivel just trying to get across that lake because you never know what's coming across.
Well, definitely. Heck, even today, I got on the water and I was headed across and going to check some beds and heading across the lake and had a boat just all but run up on top of me and I say that, I use that term loosely. We were probably 75 to 100 yards away, but it's still a little close for my comfort, you know, for two boats that are running. I was cutting across and he was coming down from the north end. And I seen him, I checked up and told him to go ahead. I mean, because I turned and we were running together and I was still trying to get across. And we were running the same speed. And I was like, look, just
go on. Yeah.
Just get out of my way.
Yeah.
And he moved on out of the way and I was able to go do what I needed to do. But going to be very interesting. I'm excited about this tournament. You know, I've set some goals for me, and you know, with my history with what I've had here at this tournament over the last several years, I've weighed fish in every year. I haven't won a check. My goal this year is to
win a check.
Win a check, but I want to weigh in 2 fish for myself.
Yes.
And if I can get 2 fish across the scales this year, give me an opportunity to possibly place. And I mean, like I said, this tournament here, it's about one bite. You're looking for that one big bite and to win a check. And it's not putting your best 5 together or the most weight overall. It's totally different than what most anglers are used to fishing, especially that fish a lot of tournaments. Where you have a 5 fish limit and such. It's a different aspect. So with having that, you know, we got to dig into the rules and with us taking the chance of going where we're going tomorrow,
we could catch multiple fish.
We could. And so then the aspect of being strategic and to win that check, obviously keeping fish alive and fish safety, their health is first and foremost. But, you know, making that long run from the far north end of the lake all the way to the far south end of the lake, you know, it's a long boat ride.
Yeah, it is.
And it's probably going to be from the 1375 bridge to the weigh-in site. I know in my boat, I can make it in about 25 to 30 minutes.
Mine, we're looking at maybe 40, 45 minutes.
45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
You know,
we're talking about a 150 horse
difference.
You know, Merc on mine as compared to yours. You got 225, right?
Right, 225 Yamaha.
I mean, there's a big difference there, and just to, you know, we're going to have all kinds of footage this over the course of the weekend. You know, I went above and beyond to try and get. You know, we're going to have cameras set up on the boat. We're going to be mic'd up. We're going to try and get as much stuff as we possibly can to not only grow the channel, but to try and teach at the same time.
Most definitely.
But at the same time, while we're teaching, we're learning.
Right.
Right.
So what's interesting, though, is we talked about the rain, right, that we had just a week ago. And I know on Livingston, my home pond, you could go on that lake today, and it's going to be muddy.
Oh, yeah.
Surprisingly, the water clarity on Conroe is really, really good right now.
It is, and except if you get into the deeper part of the arms where we were at today.
Well, but
There was construction going on
that,
in there.
and that,
I mean,
that's true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is in that particular area, they have bulkheaded and done a lot of work over in that area.
Right.
And it was very, very muddy, to say the least. So that made it a lot harder to fish. Had a lot of bait fish in there.
It did, though.
We
It did.
was
even
able to
though-
find that
yeah.
on the live scope.
Yeah, and I mean, and as far as live scoping goes, I mean, we're still trying to figure that thing out.
Dude.
And to all the haters out there on the live scope, relax, okay? It's just another tool in the boat. You're not going to plug that thing in and start catching fish. I definitely haven't. Right?
I got a crick in my neck from today from looking, at
looking
the live
down like
scope,
this.
and I caught one male off of a bed, and it was not using live scope. But those guys that fish the live scope, fish offshore,
They do it every
there's
day.
a lot of work that goes into that,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of learning.
A lot of technique.
Yes, that goes along with that. So just because you pull up, somebody's got that scope on their boat, and you see that triangle transducer hanging off the trolling motor,
Doesn't mean nothing.
doesn't mean crap. If they don't know how to use it, if they're still learning, I mean, there's so much that plays into that.
And I mean, bringing that up, I mean, yeah, we're going to be using it, right? It's going to be on. We might turn it into perspective mode if we get shallow. But new rule here this year for the BBT, you can only have one forward-facing sonar transducer on the boat, no more, no less. Or well, you can have less, obviously,
Right.
but no more
more
than
than
that
one.
one
Yeah.
transducer. You can't have them mounted on the back, and going all over the place.
And you got to think the rule adjustments that BASS and the Elite Series MLF
made,
has made that had to play into a factor in
Sure
that
did.
aspect. And I really like the new rules of the MLF, specifically having an hour to be able to use your forward-facing
I love
sonar, because it makes them guys go back to the old school way of
Yeah,
fishing,
which we'll be
and
doing a lot
flipping
of.
and pitching, and that's my style of fishing. I'm not
Yeah.
an offshore guy. I'm not to go find a brush pile in 40 foot of water and go throw a swim jig out there. That's not me. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm a junk fisherman. I'm trashy.
We're power fishing, baby.
Yeah. So a lot of cast and a lot of reels and sore arms and minimal bites.
So to kind of wrap up, we don't want to go too long. I've been already told that I'm long-winded, and when I'm talking about fishing, I can see
Can
that.
be, yeah. Fishing and football.
To wrap kind of this pre-video, this pre-tournament video up, talk about your approach on your rods and what you're going to be throwing the next couple of days.
So I know how I fish, and as I just said, I'm a junk fisherman. I'm really big on rage crawls. Those are my go-to. I like to throw those. I like the action that they throw out. I'm not sponsored by them by no means.
Ain't nobody freaking sponsored
The
here.
only person that sponsors me is my wife.
Yeah.
And that's due to the lack of her better judgment.
I completely agree with that.
So I throw a lot of rage crawls. I'm pushing myself to throw more Cincos this year, Texas rig wise and just straight weightless. I'm pushing myself that way, and I talked to you about it. I want to throw more rattle traps too. I feel like that I miss a lot of opportunities throwing those, and I have one rigged up, and we'll do that. I'm not a big Carolina rig guy. I've done it. I like it. It's fun, but I don't feel like I just don't know if we're going to be in that type of situation in that deep water. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. And I mean, I think you and I are of the same mindset. I mean, we're in pre-spawn time. There was some success with the rattle trap in the MLF, right? And fishing some cover and trying to rip it out of that grass and stuff. And I'm going to have one on. I'm probably going to have the Strike King red eye shad in the fire crawl color. I mean, pre-spawn, that's the color right now, right? I threw the fire crawl chatterbait today, I'm probably going to switch that. I think the only time I'm going to be throwing a fire crawl color is in that red eye shad rattle trap. Other than that, I'm a Cinco guy, right?
Right.
You said you have to force yourself to use the Cincos. I like to throw the Cincos,
Right.
especially weightless, or if I'm throwing them wacky rig, or if I'm throwing them with a Texas rig with a weight on them, whatever the case may be. As far as the Carolina rig goes, it depends on the situation, right? We get on if we're out there and we're going over a point and we happen to see some fish on the sonar and side scan or whatever, and we decide to fish a point for a little while, I might throw the Carolina rig a little bit.
He felt like Ricky Bobby. He didn't know what to
I
do
don't know
with his hands.
Do with my hands.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do?
It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited about having a camera, and I threw that at you a couple weeks ago about putting a camera on the boat.
And that's kind of what pushed me to go ahead with the channel and starting it and doing it with because before I went to Mexico, I was just debating it, whether going back and forth, whether I should do that, and it worked out well. I mean, I've got tons of footage that I got to go through and edit. We've got multiple episodes of the Mexico trip. We're going to have multiple episodes of this Conroe tournament.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that BS. Go over to Facebook. Check us out over there. We're going to be posting pictures and stuff throughout this tournament. By the time that this video comes out, of course, the tournament's already going to be over. But nonetheless, we're planning on having a great time here on Lake Conroe.
I'm the king. He's the heart. Let's go fishing.
We'll catch you on the next one.
How'd you like it?